Hey y'all, I'm Kim, host of Book Marketing Mania, and I'm so thrilled you're tuning in today as my guest is Cara Ray, founder of the Writer's Bloc, a community for Christian writers. We've talked a lot about community on the show as it's so important to have people around you to help cheer your message on, to collaborate with, and to offer a helping hand when you get stuck. Oh, anybody else raising their hand with me on that one? I am so thankful for the online friends and in-person friends that I've met through amazing writing communities. And so I couldn't wait to share this conversation with you. I'm so thrilled to get a chance to learn and share more about Cara's community and how it can serve you alongside your writing dreams. You are in for a treat today, so let's get to it. Hey, Cara, welcome to Book Marketing Mania. I'm so thrilled you're here today to serve my listeners.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, Kim.
And shout out to our mutual friend, Michelle Rahal, that introduced us. And I'm so thankful for that connection. So I wanted to talk to you, Cara, because I know Michelle has really been raving about your community. And we've talked a little bit about communities on the podcast, but I think that's such a huge need for writers for sure. I know I've been in several, and just the relationships I've developed have stayed over time and just been so impactful for me on my journey. And so I would just love for you to kind of start the ball rolling there of just, your input on the importance of community for yourself and why you've thought, let's put together a community to encourage other writers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think community is such a key to our personal growth because we don't grow in a vacuum, right? We need each other to level up our skills, to ask questions, to get feedback. So in my own writing life and career, I remember very early on feeling very alone, very much like I'm doing everything wrong. I was super intimidated by all the things I didn't know. And I got connected with some like-minded writers on Facebook, and that was such a catalyst to helping me grow. And it was so nice to have other writers around that understood a lot of the common struggles. And usually there were a few writers who were a few steps ahead, and then you would glean information from them. And then you were always a few steps ahead of somebody else. And so you could talk to other people and share the knowledge that you had. And so it was in that process of just being in, a few very informal communities online that I was really beginning to reap the benefits of being a part of a community. And that's kind of what kicked off my own personal writing community, which is called the Writer's Bloc.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for sure. Because I do think, as we're writing, we want people to be able to pour into us, but then we also want to pour into others what we've learned. And I'm really surprised, Cara, I don't know if you run into this too, just how many people I meet that maybe they've even already published a book, but they don't have any kind of community. And it's, whether they haven't had time to do it or they just don't even know where to begin. They just haven't formed a community. And I feel like they're missing out on such a huge piece of just the relationships and being able to rely on each other, whenever you want to help and cheer each other on big time. So let's talk about the Writer's Bloc and tell us a little bit about that and what makes it unique compared to other writing communities that maybe you've been a part of.
Yeah, I love to talk about our community. It's the Writer's Bloc, BLOC, and it's kind of a play on words because we all understand what writer's block means. And we all have probably been there a time or two, but also a block also means a community of people who are united with a common interest. And so that is really part of the identity of the Writer's Bloc, is that we are a group of Christian women writers who are all about learning about the art and heart of writing is really where we camp out. And so I think those things in itself make us unique because we are truly focused on glorifying the Lord through our work. And we have writers from all different walks of life. We have nonfiction writers. We have writers who are working on memoirs. We have fiction writers. We have beginners. We have published, we have seeking to be published. So everything in between. But all of us have this common need, which is to grow both in the art of writing, which includes everything from, you know, the mechanics, the basics of writing, but also how to put your work out there in the world today. We consider that part of the art of writing, putting your website together and your offering and creating an email list. All of these things are things that writers are encouraged and sort of have to do today to put their work out there in any form or fashion.
Yeah.
So we call that the art of writing. And then we also talk about the heart. So as writers, you know this as well, that there is this heart connection, not only to our own words, but to our readers. And so there's all kinds of issues, for lack of a better word, that we encounter as writers that, we need encouragement to keep going. We also want to encourage our readers. So how do we connect with our readers in a better way? So those are kind of the big, broad umbrellas that we focus on inside the Writer's Block.
That's so great. Yeah. Cause that's the other thing I realized, like when I talk to people, and again, it's often people that already have a book in hand, but they they don't have any kind of an online presence. They haven't started a website. They haven't started an email list. And I don't know if, sometimes it's because no one told them, right? They didn't know, or they just haven't gotten around to it. So it's so nice to have a community to lean on to learn things like that from. And so I'd love to hear, what are the most common questions or struggles you see with writers as they come into the writer's block?
Well, there's a range. I think a lot of us really struggle with this feeling of an imposter syndrome thing where it's who am I to talk about these kind of things? We are intimidated by the bigger, louder, more popular voices out there. And so it's sometimes hard to break into whatever writing niche that you're involved in. And so I think a lot of writers really struggle with that. A lot of self-doubt, a lot of feeling intimidated by the process of putting your words out into the world for the world to see. It's a very different mindset when you're writing for public consumption. And so I think there's a lot of hurdles when it comes to that. How do I do this? How do I, not necessarily make a name for myself, because we're about glorifying the Lord, but we do want our words to reach as far and wide as possible. And there's a finesse to that, and there's an art to that. And so a lot of writers are really overwhelmed with that, and they just need a little bit of encouragement to get going. They need some other cheerleaders behind them that'll say, hey, this is what I've learned, and let me share my knowledge with you. I see a lot of that happening inside where you just need somebody who's a few steps ahead of you that can encourage you. Yes, you could do this. I know it might feel scary and intimidating, but we can help you. We can help you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. And I think those things imposter syndrome, self-doubt, the intimidation are things that come up over and over and over. And that's why it is so nice to have a community to turn to talk you through that, because it doesn't go away, and there's just, marketing strategies you want to try, just different things that come up in that journey, just again, over and over, that, you can really feel lost if you don't have someone to turn to and somebody to pour into you and teach you, ways that you can, get through it and then move on, about your merry way of how God wants you to share your message far and wide. I love that, how you talked about that. So, Cara, one thing I did notice that whenever Michelle first introduced me to you, is that how much collaborating you were doing with other people that are in the writing space and having them share their knowledge with your community. So I'd love just to hear from you what you're doing and how you go about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're about community, you have to be about other people. And this is not a community built on my back necessarily. It is about a bunch of people who've contributed to the base of content that we're producing. So every week we have a new teacher who teaches to what we call our gathering. And those videos are available on YouTube for anyone to watch. And so it's kind of an interview format similar to this. And we talk about whatever that topic is. I've had people teach about SEO. I've had people talk about writing your hard stories, how to brand yourself. I mean, you name it. We've covered a lot of ground. And so that gives other writers who may not necessarily always consider themselves experts in their field, but God has given them some experience or some insight that they may not even really realize, like, I can offer this to help other people. And so, that's what we do. We meet with other women who are, pursuing writing in some avenue, and they share with us what they've learned and how we can apply some of their knowledge to our own situations. And so that's the collaboration that happens inside, is that it's a shared microphone with a lot of writers and influencers in their own spaces, and they share with us their gifts. And then I think it just blesses them as much as it blesses the audience, because it feels good to give. It feels good to share your information and help other people. And so we do that. And then in addition to that, we also have a space called the Collaboration Corner inside the Writer's Block. And so there's opportunity for other writers to team up together and to do projects together, or guest post on each other's blogs and that kind of thing. So we have other ways to collaborate with members inside the Writer's Block.
Yeah, that's so great. And again, that's the benefit of having a community of other writers, because you can, offer up opportunities for each other's platforms, to write for each other.
Absolutely.
And just like you said, just kind of give back, to the knowledge that God's given you and the skills. You can turn around and give it back to the community. So I love that so much. So tell us just a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of the Writer's Block, Cara, because it's a paid membership, right?
Yes, it is. We are hosted inside the Mighty Network platform, which is a really wonderful, very user-friendly and visually pleasing platform to be on. I think one of the benefits of being on a dedicated platform, not on Facebook or some other social media site, is that it's a non-distracted time. I think people go to the Writer's Block because they want to engage around the topic of the art and heart of writing. And so that's really nice, but it's a monthly membership. It's $27 a month to join. And once you're in, you get full access to everything inside, including all of our teaching archives and just the wealth of knowledge that is represented there. So a lot of conversations about areas where I need help, or I need encouragement, or what do you do in this situation? Or how do I get started on writing a book proposal? Or, whatever the question of the day is, people get to talk about it. And it's a wonderful continuing ed, if you want to call it, space for a lot of continuous learning around writing.
That's so great. Yeah, because there is always something to learn, right? Just like you talked about the art and the heart, like just within those two categories, there's so much to learn about the art of, the art and craft, and just the heart, and really responding to how God's calling you to use your words. And then, just all the different things about how to promote your writing and get yourself out there and market it. And then, turning into like publishing. I mean, there's just so much. So it's so great to have, again, a community that you can go to, not just for the community. I mean, the community itself is amazing, but then this incredible educational resource is so incredible.
Absolutely.
So I'm super excited to learn about it, Cara. And would you, as we wrap up here, I would love for you just to tell everybody how, because we're going to be chopping at the bit to find out how can I connect with Cara and the Writer's Block. And then I think you also had a little free resource to share with our listeners that they would love to hear about.
I do. Yeah. If they want to learn more about the Writer's Block, they can go to the website, which is mywritersblock.com. And on that page, I have a free resource. It's called The Seasons of Creativity. It really goes through, if you're a creative of any sort, whether you write or you paint or you sculpt or you knit or whatever, there's seasons to our creativity. Often I think we expect ourselves to be pumping out content or producing all the time. There's seasons to our creativity. And so as creative people, we need to work within our seasons. And that's what that resource is there to provide you with, help you to identify what season you're in creatively, how to maximize that season, how to not strive to be in a different season than you're in, to really allow yourself the freedom to really be in that season, because they change pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So that's a resource that people can get. And then we have a waiting list right now for our next enrollment period. And so if people are interested, they can join our waiting list from there, and they'll be given information via email about how they can join.
Okay, wonderful. But I'll be sure and put links to all that in the show notes. Well, Cara, this has been so fun to get to meet you and hear more about the writer's block. And I so appreciate you being here today to serve my listeners.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been so much fun. Thanks, Kim, for hosting me today.
Oh, y'all, what a delight that was to learn about the writer's block. And I hope you'll grab Cara's freebie and look into joining her community when it reopens. Plus, she also has applications if you would like to teach for her community. So be sure to check it all out and see if it's a fit for you. And speaking of finding a fit, I wanted to give a shout out to one of my listeners, Tim. He says, writing a book is only half the battle. You can write the best book in the world, but what if no one knows about it? Marketing is tough. Thanks, Kim, for helping me to understand the intricacies of selling with integrity. Thanks so much, Tim. And if Book Marketing Mania is bringing you value as a writer, I hope you'll leave a quick review of the show to let others know it's worth their time to tune in and learn too. It means so much to me, y'all, to hear from you. So thanks for tuning in today. And as always, I'll be there for you to help you build your audience and market your book one podcast at a time. See you then.